of Real Estate Furniture Exchange and also a broker with United Real Estate. And I just want to say, my sweater, my necklace, and my blouse are from an estate sale. My boots were given to me by someone that said, you wear this size. The furniture in my entire home is used. It's from estate sales or consignment shops. And I really believe in that. I'm very passionate about recycling and repurposing. And that's how this whole business of holding estate sales and downsizing began. And as I became a real estate agent, what I discovered is that agents were telling people to either put it all in storage or throw it away, spend thousands of dollars to throw their items away. So raise your hand if you have ever had a storage unit. Okay, we got a few. Yeah, I have two. How about if you've ever been told to throw everything away that you need to move out of a relative's house or something? There's a house, the address I gave you, the original owner, his executor of his estate told him to pay $10,000 and get everything thrown away so that he could get the house on the market. We came in and did a couple of sales, made money for the executor, and it went totally different. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. We have a wonderful panel. We're going to talk about the process. We're going to talk about do's and don'ts, common things that don't sell, common things that are thrown away, and kind of what the whole process is, how we can give back a little bit more to the community. And so having done downsizing for over 20 years, I've realized people have a lot of questions and they get stopped by it. They get kind of stuck. And we have clients that will be sitting on a house for 2 years before they even move forward because they're so stuck on what to do with all the stuff in it. I've had 2 calls today about that with people saying that they have so much stuff. Their mom saved 50 Yadro figurines and all kinds of stuff in the house and they don't know what to do. And so that's where we want to help educate and also learn from everyone here tonight on how that works. So I kind of became passionate about helping real estate agents in that process, and I realized I needed a team. And this amazing team showed up in my life, Kip and Joe Johnson, and if you've ever been to one of our estate sales, you've seen them. And so what I'd love to see, I just want everybody to talk about their experiences along the way and commonalities that they see. So in addition to an estate sale team, we need nonprofits that we work closely with. We also need junk removal and donation crews, and we have DJT services here with us. They're going to share with you also. Also, we've had clients who needed organization and packing. We have Lisa here who's going to share with that. We have Allison who also does organizing, but she also attends most of our estate sales. She's going to talk about that and kind of talk about things she sees. And then we're going to ask all of you to kind of chime in and just tell us what your experience has been. We also have Nancy here, and she's going to tell her story of what her experience was in the whole downsizing process and just tell her story for us to share tonight. Okay, so we have a lot of fun things to share. And let's go ahead and get started with our team. So since Kip is our photographer tonight, we'll go down to Joe at the end of the table. So Joe, how long have you and Kip been doing estate sales?
And we continue to try and count how many years it's been. The best guesstimate we can come up with is about seven, maybe 8 years.
And you do your pickers, so you can kind of explain a little bit about that too.
That's how we got started. We met Leslie, and we were pickers, and so we would come in after she had been selling items and help her clear out things that we could resell, so that there wasn't the higher cost of the clean out. So by us removing items, the cleanup became much smaller, and so the charge was a lot less. So that's how we got started. And then Leslie needed some help with an estate sale, and so we kind of helped out. And then we watched, and she watched us, and then she said, "This one is yours. You're on your own." And so we kind of taken it from there. But we were, as pickers, we were the crew of 2, TOO. Too much stuff, too little time. We're the crew for you. So that's how we got started, just kind of gradually worked into it.
Awesome. And so, I've been asked to move. So, one thing that I would ask you, you go into all these estate sales, you got a house full of stuff. What are things that you think sell easily? Like, could you say, like, just off the top of your head, what are some things that sell easily? And Kip, you can chime in too, if you need to.
Tools, any kind of tools, power tools, hand tools, gardening tools, flower pots, anything to do with gardening, everything to do with gardening, yard art, kitchen stuff is a big draw. I think what happens a lot of times is that there's tool and fishing, oh my goodness, fishing gear. If there's the tools and fishing gear, then the husband is much more willing to go to the sale that the wife wants to go to. So that's why, that's a huge plus if there's any of that. But the kitchen things, the bigger items can be a little more challenging to, people just aren't looking for big furniture.
Yeah, we often have people that they'll do a Goodwill run, or they'll get rid of stuff before the sale. And we want to make sure that people understand everything is useful. I mean, there are obvious trash items, right? There are obvious things that are broken or dirty. But what are some things typically that don't sell in your experience?
Crystal,
Okay.
china, all those beautiful things that were inherited from grandmother, pianos. The one time, our favorite time when we did actually sell a piano, I sold all the sheet music and there was quite a bit of sheet music, and I sold the gentleman the sheet music for $5 on the condition that he take the piano with it. And so he did, and he lived just the next house down the road, but it was on a gravel road uphill. And he pushed that piano with the sheet music out the driveway, up the hill, into his house, all for $5 worth of sheet music and a piano.
Right, so I'm gonna bounce, and you'll have a chance to ask questions. I'm gonna bounce over to John and Denora, because John's already standing, he's ready to talk. So you guys have been doing junk removal and donation runs. Can you talk about the process? Like, when you get to a home, it's still full of stuff, even after we've done the sale.
Well, when we get to a home, it's, me and John, usually John is okay, well, we can donate this, and we can throw this away. We try to save as much as possible, and there are items that aren't donatable, and like pianos, for instance, not a lot of pianos get picked up.
Okay, what else? What do you have to cut up all the time? Like,
Big desks.
Big desks, big furniture that's, something maybe your grandparents own,
yeah.
china hutches, they're really big items.
Yeah.
And, people just don't buy them, it seems like, and, so we end up having to, if we can't get them donated, then we take them to landfill.
And they're not donatable. We've tried to donate them to Goodwill or to wherever, and they're just too big for their showroom. It just won't fit on the floor, so they won't take them. No matter how great of shape they're in, or if they're like the top of the line, it doesn't matter if they'll take a little desk and a little table, but anything big, they want nothing to do with it, really.
So what do you guys see?
Mattresses, box springs, that
Okay.
stuff never sells.
So what are you throwing away a lot of? Like, what do you just kind of expect to see in clean outs that you're throwing away? Does that make sense?
Items like that, mattresses,
Okay.
Pianos,
pianos,
organs, unless they're in
mismatch, kitchenware,
Okay.
things that aren't in sets,
So things that are, so is everybody hearing that? Things that aren't sets or mismatched, or do you kind of get a pattern here of what to keep and what to maybe get rid of if you can?
Chemicals.
Chemicals, that's right. So how do you handle chemicals?
Well, I have to take it to a special place, and
Okay.
all of it, and then drop it off, and then
I just looked at kids that hazardous waste, and they'll take the paint and flammables,
oh,
so.
Good.
that brings up a great point.
Good.
Paint,
Yeah.
every house has paint, and a lot of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we can take it to the local paint stores, there's one here in Big Harbor that we use a lot.
Sherwin-Williams will take all of our paint.
Yeah.
Just about.
Yeah, so that's a challenge too. And a lot of
time
times we save, in listings, we save the paint that matches the house. But we did that in a house in Gig Harbor, and I went by the other day, all the paint we saved was out on the driveway getting ready to throw it away, so they were actually repainting.
At all of our sales, paint,
Yeah,
chemicals,
yes,
household cleaners,
yep.
anything that's been opened or
Yeah.
is free.
So we still
don't
give
charge.
it away. We don't throw it away when we can't give it away or sell it, right? So that's important. So speaking of that side, and again, you guys all had a chance to ask questions, thank you. So let's go to Lisa Van Dorn, who does organizing, and she spent months, right, with Lola, spent months with one of my clients helping her pack and organize and get ready to move. And I think what we saw there is she packed too much stuff, she moved too much stuff. So can you kind of share a little bit what you see commonly in that process?
Sure, a lot of people really aren't ready to move in their heart, they don't really want to move, and so they do want to take everything with them.
Yes.
And so we work really hard with decision making, but let's talk about it, let's talk about the space you're moving into. And if we can declutter and downsize on the front end, it makes their work on the back end so much easier,
Yes.
right? So I know that particular client ended up with, I think, 2 rooms full of boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still.
And yeah, there's still, and
Yeah.
she keeps, occasionally she'll say, I need you to come over, and then she says, but maybe my daughter will help me.
Yeah.
So she might still call, we'll see.
Right.
But if we can declutter on the front end and get
Mhm.
rid of as much as possible, you know, if it's sitting in boxes for a year on the back end, you're not missing it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So we downsize and declutter as much as possible.
I think that's a really good point you just made. So if you're not using something for a year, I think that's a good rule, right? Yeah, I think
Right.
that's a really good rule to, you know, let's talk about that.
Right.
If you're not using it for a year, do you really need it? And we see a lot of that. A lot of people save things for their kids. So I just had a conversation with a man who called me from California, and he said, my mom has 50 Yadro figurines that she saved for me, a man. And he said they're worth thousands of dollars. So our crew here, does anybody think Yadro figurines are worth thousands of dollars? No, I don't remember. Did we sell some recently, Joe? Like, what did
We tried to.
they go for like $5 or $10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We start out with a price that is close to what, 1/4 resale would be at that point in time, not original price. But then the goal is to have it sold, have it gone,
Mhm.
and have to continue packing it somewhere.
Right.
And so we lower the prices, and having been a Hummel collector all my life, I know what Hummels go for now, and it just breaks my heart. And so I know how difficult it is for people to see what they spent thousands of dollars on, and now it's just not anymore.
Yeah, and I think there's a lesson there too. I'm gonna walk over on this side too. So, has anybody here, and I've done this, has anybody here saved anything? Raise your hand if you've saved anything for your kids at some point, or you have, raise your hand, yes, okay, so everybody's done that. And have you found that your kids don't want those things? Has anybody run into that? My favorite one was my wedding dress sealed in a box. How many people did, like women, have you done it, sealed your wedding dress in a box, right? And I asked one of my daughters if she would wear it, and she said, I would never wear that, I would wear Vera Wang, or something to that nature. But yeah, I think we become sentimental when we save things, and we have to really think that through. Do our kids really want them? And the most common thing we see is crystal and china. And that's why we don't sell hutches. That's why Denora and John are talking about having to cut out hutches and take them to the dump, because if you're not collecting crystal and china, then you don't need a hutch. So that's the pattern we've seen in the past few years. It's beautiful stuff, but maybe reflect on that. Are you saving things
And
for your
with
kids?
clients, it's very personal because it's taken
Yes.
a long time to collect the whole matching set,
Yes.
and all those pieces, and a lot of sacrifice.
Yes.
Right? Every Christmas gift for decades, right?
Right, that's a
what
good
all of that
point.
was. And so it's very sentimental to them. And
Yeah,
that's why it's hard to let it go.
it is. I
You have
agree.
to, like, lay it on the line.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, have a seat. We have food too.
I'm not sure I know what this is.
Well, this is like
Downsizing.
downsizing, do's and don'ts, and kind of just talking about the process of downsizing and clearing out your home, so,
Do you represent the company?
yes.
So, we're so sorry. We're selling our home, we signed up, we had the realtor sign up for that.
Oh,
And he's like, well, just take pictures and send pictures. And it's like, we want somebody to come to the house and,
we come.
you
We
do
come.
that?
Yes, we do. We
You have
come
a
to
card
the
or
house.
something and I'll get out of here?
You can stay. We're all.
Well, my wife's waiting.
Okay. It's two-sided.
Okay,
So that's our
great,
company.
thanks.
We'd love to help you.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right. Okay, so let's talk to Nancy Hohenstein. You gotta make sure your mouth's not blurred. So, Nancy, can you just kind of tell your story? Tell everybody how you ended up in a position where you decided it was time to sell your home and what kind of help you needed and just your
And
experience.
how much help you were, because I don't know what I've done without her. Okay, I lived in my home in Gig Harbor, into the harbor, actually across from the Narrow, so I had a home with a beautiful view and everything, but it was 4 stories. And my husband had passed away, and I didn't need 4 stories and 2,500 square feet, but it was a house full of, and there were a lot of antiques. There were 2 pianos.
No.
One was a grand piano and one was an upright. The upright stayed in the house. I don't know. I doubt if it's still there. But my husband was an artist. And I have a lot of art that he was a spectacular artist. He could work in so many media, and he did. Everything that was 2-dimensional and 4-dimensional. He collected a lot of things to create his studio, which took up the whole basement, pretty much. So the first thing I did, because I had gotten a reverse mortgage, so I had the cash to go buy the house that I wanted. And I moved to the Lakes, which is a senior living community up off of 144th up here. And they're all single story and they're all manufactured homes, but really nice. And this is a lovely community with walking trails and ponds and geese and critters. And moved what I wanted to take with me first. That's the first thing I did, was get out what I wanted to keep.
Smart.
And then I turned it over.
Yes.
So
we handled it. I want you to know that before we cut up that piano, we played 2 or 3 songs and we sang together.
We did.
I make these guys sing with me.
We did. We
I
did
make them
move
sing and
stuff.
play the piano before it goes to piano graveyard, just so you
But
know.
that was a tough thing, because my mother was a concert pianist, and that was the piano she learned to play on.
Yeah. That is really tough, and I'm not sure, someday we're gonna figure out what to do with pianos, because right now you can't give them away. And that's sad to me. I love piano. I have a grand piano in my house. I love piano, so. But I have that piano because someone was going to cut it up and burn it.
Yeah.
And that was in the beginning of the downsizing process. Then when I realized there's one in almost every house, I had to stop there with one piano, but it's important. So in your position, that was really smart that you moved out first and then just, what was the process like of letting go of stuff? You talked about the piano a little bit, but what about the other things?
The other things were a lot more hand-me-downs, because the family had left them to us. You know, there were the bed, the brass bed that my mother was born in. You know, things like that. Those were hard to do, but some of them were just stuff, you know. And I had a new home with a new look, and I wanted to fit my furniture to my new home, so that wasn't too tough to let go. Turning over some of the tools that The mistake I made was maybe getting rid of too much, because I found as I got to my new house,
Yeah.
there were tools that I need that I had sold probably 3 of.
Yeah.
But
That's a
I
good
didn't
point.
know until I got there what it was that I was going to need, and so I had to go out and buy new ones.
Right, well, you just come to any one of our next sales and you're always right. I hear about a ladder that we sold on a regular basis from one of my clients, but it's all good. Okay, so that's great, so you found it helpful just to be able to let it go and turn it over
Yes.
and not be involved because of, I think, the emotional side of it too, which makes it easier,
Yeah.
so. I'm gonna actually turn it over to Allison here, because Allison also does organizing and downsizing, but Allison comes to most of our sales. So tell us what that is like as a client, coming to our sales, shopping there, what do you find, you know, what is, and I'm gonna have you, yeah, you're gonna have to stand up, yeah. We can't see you.
Well, when I come to the sales, so I do decluttering and organizing and downsizing, but I also do reselling. So I come to the sales and look for things that are resellable. I also love to repurpose things, and I do want to say that I'm starting to I've connected with a couple of different people on China hutches by promoting them more as a collectibles opportunity where they can paint it and put their Star Wars stuff in it and their Legos, and because people do still collect things, they just don't collect China.
Yeah.
I did want to say that, but I don't want to chime in when everybody was talking. But I love to repurpose stuff. I hate for any of it to go to the landfill. I'm with you. I don't like it to go to the landfill. So that's what I'm doing when I come to your sales, is I'm looking for stuff that is gonna go to the garbage, and I don't want it to.
Yeah. And so prices, as you know, are always low.
Very good, yeah, and your guys' sales are amazing. Yeah.
And we have that comment sometimes from our sellers saying, you know, you can't price it that low. But what we've learned, and you're probably finding this in the resale business too, pricing's about 1/4 retail. So,
Yes,
yeah.
and what I see is that the people that want their stuff sold at specific prices end up with most of their stuff still there after the sale. So being able to communicate with them in a way that they detach from what they paid for it, I think is key. But yeah,
Detached, that's a good word. That's awesome. Thank you, Allison. Thank you for being
I
understanding.
have a question. Were you the one who took my cut glass, clutch?
No, was that Jody?
Jody,
Jody, we know who it was. Okay, we called them.
and it ended up in Holsville.
It did.
Yes.
It has a story.
I'll tell you the story. There's another story to that.
Oh, no, this clutch used to be the medicine cabinet for the abortionists.
We told them that.
That was the first conversation for anybody that came and stopped and looked at it. I said, let me tell you the story.
We shared your story.
And then they left.
Everything has a story. I'm gonna bounce back to Denora and John really quick. In a typical clean out, and this is very generic, what do you think dump fees typically are?
Well, in Pierce County, they're outrageous.
So minimum is like $35, but it's never the minimum, right?
No.
No, every dump run is like between $125 and $200, depending on what county we're doing it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys are Kitsap County, are you
I've
finding?
been doing about $42.
Okay, so that's an important point to know that when you sell something for a low price, you're saving not only the dump fees, but the hourly wages of the crew, right? So those are important things that kind of make me
The
bounce to
stuff
that.
I'm dumping, nobody wants
Yeah.
to buy.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
And the North trailer holds, I mean, it's a 10 by,
It's a 10,000-pound dump trailer.
Oh, okay.
so that's why the fees for him are so much higher.
Gotcha.
And we, out of your house, I think we had 5 gallons to the dump.
Yes.
Kilowatts, I mean, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I know.
And it was
Well, I
expensive.
think part of the process of some people live in their homes for 30 years. It's like they got stuff from their parents and they got stuff from their parents. And a lot of the stuff from people that have come before us gets left behind, you know what I mean? And then it just builds up and then there's sentimental attachment. I get it, it's really
That's
hard to
right.
get, like all this stuff, but like for myself, if I don't use it on a daily basis, I don't want it.
Right, that's really true. Well, I'm gonna bounce from something that Nancy said, that she found it easier to just get into her place first and then let us clear it out. And that is by far the best situation for us as a team, because it's really hard to work around people in the house or coming in, changing their mind, or we come to do our sale and now half the stuff's gone because they gave it to a neighbor or something. It's very frustrating, but, so David Sleddervold, am I pronouncing it right?
Sleddervold.
Sleddervold, I add the E, I have to make it like a German.
It's a tough one.
Sleddervold. So David's with Barrett Financial, and he's one of the people that could teach you how to make that transition, and I know we've talked about that in Bishops. So, he has programs that help you make that transition from getting into another place while you're selling your existing home or while you're downsizing, or maybe a relative helping a relative. So David, take it away. Thank you for co-hosting with me today.
No worries. I think one of the biggest things about financing that stops people is there's this push that you feel walking into it, and my parents felt like this, everyone I talked to felt like this, that you need all of your research done up front. And then suddenly you'll know exactly what to ask for, you'll get exactly what you want, and then it's perfect. But I think that there's better conversations to have with people with large amounts of options on brokers, especially myself. I have access to like 150 different lenders. Knowing which one's right for you and which programs are best for you is a full team commitment. And I'm always really happy to work with people on making sure that we find the right program for what they're looking for. I want to make sure that rates are good, and things like reverse mortgages help people, but also can be confusing, and we hear horror stories about them all of the time. So what matters, I think, is always finding someone that you can trust, having open lines of communication, and having everyone invested in your success, whatever that looks like. If that's moving, if that's rehabilitating an existing home, if it's a reverse, or if it's a bridge loan in order to relocate yourself. I mean, I'm blessed to be able to do all of those, but I find that in most situations, what's needed is very specific, and finding that and being on that personal journey it's huge to me. So, yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So let's say I'm selling my house, it's not on the market yet.
Sure.
And I make that jump to get into another place. And then we get that house on the market and it doesn't sell for several months, maybe 6 months, 8 months. What happens with a bridge loan or something like that? Am I making double payments? Like what are the basic guidelines?
That's a good question.
It is a very good question. With bridge loans, in order to secure that existing financing, they require a large amount of equity by themselves already. So bridge loans are usually for that exact situation you've described, but you'll see them when you own, 80, 70, 80% of your house. When those contingent offers happen and you reach that kind of confusion, bridge loans aren't the perfect solution for everybody. When that sort of thing happens, it's one of the more difficult things about them, but when you have a certain percentage of equity, usually the lowest I've seen is like 50%, double payments can occur for a period. There are ways around that. There's ways of skipping payments, obviously, when you get a new mortgage. So it's a matter of timing, but also bridge loans for that reason, they're a huge commitment and something that you have to think about. And not something that I would ever give someone, just hand out or talk to in that way. So I think that the basic guidelines for it, usually you're going to see somewhere, you'll need to own over 40% of your home, and in addition, you should always be very sure about your own expenses prior to looking into something like that. But usually bridge loans, by the time people are talking to me about them, they already have an idea of, these are my next steps, and I need to make this move for non-financial factors, I will be financially secure, but in the meantime, I just need this amount of money to close on this
okay.
purchase. So, but and the reason why I sound a little like it's just because all of the loan programs that are offered are so different. Asking for like what's the usual or the standard when you enter the non-qualified mortgage world, as it's called, it varies wildly. So I will say that it's so dependent on expenses and the percentage of your home that you own, and then based off that, rates can change anywhere in a large swath, somewhere from like the 9 to 11% range. So
Okay.
it's a thing to watch.
So it's an individual situation, but there's a way. There's a
Yes.
way to get out of that home and into another one while you're preparing.
Definitely.
Because it can take months to get a house ready.
And bridge loans
So-
often, with those double payments, that's the one thing I should have mentioned up front, they often have an interest-only period. And that's, like, those bridge loan payments are going to be a lot smaller until it becomes the main financing, until you've sold.
Okay.
And so there's a contingent point in there as well.
Yeah, just done the right way. So Ally and Mark, I'm gonna ask you guys a couple questions too. So what are your concerns, like, when you're thinking about downsizing or planning, like, tell me what you're concerned about, tell me what challenges you have that you might be facing.
Well, one other thing, I heard you say you have certain places where you're able to take some things and furniture and whatnot. I'm concerned about, do you have or know reputable people who are dealing things like jewelry and coins and artwork that's.
Yes.
Yeah. And you have avenues, you haven't mentioned
Yes.
that. So-
Yeah, thank you for that, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, we work closely with Goldmine Coins and Relics here in Gig Harbor, and I've been working with them for many years. And I test them, like, I'll test them on the price of gold and the price of silver, or, I'll look something up on eBay, what it actually sold for, and see what they're paying, and they're 100% reliable and trustworthy every time. So that's also something we do in our estate sales, is that we will look for something that might be more valuable, taking it to Goldmine Coins and Relics, rather than letting it go for $1 or $2. And a lot of times people don't know. There will be a jewelry box or a box stashed somewhere or something, and they don't know, and we are trained to recognize that. And so that's one of the services we offer too, is walking through and saying, you know what, you should be taking this to Goldmine Coins and Relics, not selling it at a sale. So we do that, and a lot of money comes from that, sometimes more than the wholesale. I don't know if that happened, Nancy, with your situation, but yeah, sometimes
Well,
that amount is more than the whole estate sale.
but that wasn't true.
Right. But it was good, it was a good chunk of cash.
It was good to know that there were a lot of things from grandparents and great grandparents.
Yes,
That
yeah.
was all in something.
Yeah, so some of the things, and Kip and Joe, you guys can expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, we had one sale down, I think it was in Chehalis.
Yeah.
And we were going through the house with the homeowner and Leslie, and we got to this bedroom, and up in the closet, there were some long boxes. And I said, oh, what's that? And she's, oh, it's nothing, we're just gonna throw it away. And so they started leaving, and I grabbed one box, and it was full of cards. And these cards were all collectible game cards. And so we took the 3 boxes to Goldmine Coins. That was worth over $3,000.
$3,000 they were gonna throw
And
away.
then she said, oh, well, I have these albums of cards. Well, these were the next layer to better. And her son took the best cards.
Oh.
And we sold those, and we just about beat most of our sales just from the cards.
Yeah, and so that's important, and we're trained to just bring anything. Sometimes, like some old vintage brooch is worth a lot because it's collectible, or art, certain pieces of art, but definitely broken jewelry. People throw away broken jewelry, and you can get a lot of cash for it if it's gold or silver. So that was a really good question. Thank you for that question. I skipped over that completely. Anything else you guys are challenged with or concerned about that?
Well, I don't know that we're challenged with ourselves, but I have run into it in the past. What about when you walk into a home and you've got pathways do you begin to help somebody with that? And a lot of it is things that they're gonna have to go through, if it's paperwork, if it's, you know, we've stopped that there, and the taxes are over here, and oh yeah, the will might be in here somewhere. I mean, you know, it's, that's the most overwhelming, just looking at it coming into it.
It is. So if you hire professional organizers, they can help with the, like, sorting out the wheat from the chaff, right? Here's what's important, here are your tax documents, here are your birth certificates, here's your other things. These are, you know, newspapers from 1997, we can let that go, right? So, people that come in who have a real strong idea of what's what and can separate it out, that helps.
And then do you find that they're still willing to, I mean, if they're still, I mean, sometimes a lot of it is their children that are getting rid of, having to deal with this, so it's not important to them, they can say no.
Right.
But do you
Right.
have trouble with people saying, I can't let that go, I've been saving those National Geographics
All
for.
the time, all the time. Right, they're just, it happens all the time. So it's a matter of having that conversation at the very beginning of our work together. We talk about their ultimate goal. What is your ultimate goal? My goal is to move into this single level house, you know, across town. Okay, if that's your goal, what can we do in this room right now to help you achieve that goal? Right, and so it always refers back to that.
Yeah, and we do estate sales, we're not afraid of that, it happens all the time, we're in hoarder situations, we're not afraid of it, it's just like, my favorite phrase, thank you, John, appreciate you, my favorite phrase is you can eat an elephant one bite at a time, you know, and we just work in sections. We had an estate sale that took us 2 weekends, because as you chip away at this pile, now you can move other stuff out, and you just keep sell a little bit, and really, when people come to estate sales, they like to rummage through stuff anyway, and they're not afraid of that, so, you know, our team, we're not afraid, right, Denard? He's got a big trailer, we're not afraid.
Yeah, I just don't take stuff home.
Yeah, right.
And I specialize in hoarder situations, and I work directly with a lot of hoarders. I work with their families that inherit the elephant, but I do work with hoarders. And it's when they're ready, and they've all reached out to me, which means they're ready. But there are a lot of times that it's embarrassing. They don't want anybody to see it. They're worried about judgment. So it's very emotional for them, and there's a lot of emotional attachments to stuff, and just being able to work through that. My mom was a hoarder, so I can really relate with people. So. But hoarding situations are different than just cluttered, or, it is a lot different if it's an actual hoarding situation. And hoarding, sometimes people think hoarding means that it's disgusting and gross, but that's not, most of the time that is not the situation, it's just a lot of stuff.
Well said, there's a lot of stuff.
Can I just? Non-invested party, right? Like, not a family member,
Yeah.
you gotta get rid of this, but somebody else who can stand
Yeah.
in that.
So how long do you say it typically takes for, if somebody wants to put their house on the sale, to come in and do arrange for the estate sale and all that? I mean, is it always just 1 weekend? You take a week to do it, you take 2 weeks to do it?
We've done it where Leslie's called it, I think the one time when you called us on a Tuesday
Yeah.
and said, oh, well, they're closing on Monday. And so, but you can't get in till Thursday. And so we went in on Thursday, we set up in Friday, Saturday sales, Sunday, these guys, no.
I don't work Sundays.
No, but you didn't work Sunday. You came on Monday, the cleaners on Tuesday, but we knocked it out in a week.
Yeah, to answer that question, if you say, I wanna put my house on the market, we gotta have a sale. So within 2 weeks, the house is on the market, may be sold. And so a good example was the Port Orchard Hoarder's house, that several people went to. And it took us 2 weekends of sales to get it cleared out. And then junk removal took another full day, and then cleaning took another full day. But you take those 2 weekends, and there was some setup leading up to it. So in less than a month, that home was on the market and pending. from them sitting on it for 2 years. 2 years, they couldn't move, they were overwhelmed by the hoarding situation, they were overwhelmed. So we came in, we just did it, we just jumped in, had the sales, dealt with it, and then it got cleaned up and on the market and sold, and the new owners are very happy there.
And
They just had a
that was the
big-
good part, you.
And I just want to add one other thing, is that when we are doing setup, we had one sale that we were doing that we knew that the family was looking for very important documentation, the trust. And there was a huge legal battle going over the trust, and the owner had not been able to find it anywhere. So while we're setting up, we're, okay, this is going to go, this has got to go. And I picked up a cushion off of the chair in the kitchen, and there was the notebook with the trust.
Yeah,
And so, but that's why we will go through as we're setting things up. There are papers that you just go, I don't know if you need this, but we're setting it aside for you to decide later, because it looks like, to me, it looks like it's something important, an investment or something like that, and we'll put it aside and we'll put it into a box or into one room for the family. Even if they've already think they've gone through everything, inevitably we find something that, ooh, you still may need this.
and that's what makes Skip and Joe so amazing, is that eye for doing that. Is that the same house where there was $1,500 of cash in the file cabinet?
Yeah.
Same one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just going through, like, we were selling the file cabinet for $10. Old enough. Just flipping through, like, I wonder what that is, $1,500.
Leslie gets nervous when we sell safes that we can't open.
Yeah.
And you can hear something rattle in there. But all that we know is probably the keys.
I think that was also the sale where someone said, how much for the safe? And I said, the safe? Like, I didn't know there was a safe. They had put a cardboard box over it to hide it. We didn't know there was a safe. So anyway, yeah, that's a really good question. Everybody's really careful about that and important documents. So I'm gonna turn it over to the bishops, because you guys have a move coming.
One thing that helped us with our move was when we had to clean out our parents' house, and all the stuff that they thought there's 5 of us kids wanted, and we're all looking at this going, we don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we're now looking at stuff going, our kids don't want this.
No,
Our
they
kids
never
don't want
do. They
this.
never do.
But somebody will.
Yeah, right.
I have house plants. Do they resell?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
People
Oh, yeah.
love house plants.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I've got a
Yeah.
table saw, I'd like that
Oh, yeah.
scroll saw.
Yeah.
When are we doing this?
Huh?
When are we doing yours?
Our moving truck is coming on the 6th.
June 6th,
Yeah.
June 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll
so-
be getting in there.
You're
We'll
gonna
get
be there soon.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we're working on that one, and that's Porter Church. That's near you guys. Yeah.
And we got, well, so I'll quit moving stuff to the thrift store, if you guys are gonna, I've been selling some stuff on Facebook Market.
Okay.
I brought back from 1978 a big shell lamp from the Philippines, and I've drug from the 7 houses I took. I finally said, I'm not moving it again, you know? And then went quick.
Wow.
Now, of course, the piano doesn't go, and then I got rid of the kayak, that was there, sold
Good.
that.
Good.
The canoe's gone, I had one of these inverted beds you go in for your spine,
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
sold right away.
Wow. Wow, you're on it.
We've been getting rid of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Filtering a lot.
The one sale that we did that was 2 weekends, and it was a hoarding situation, just,
Yeah.
if he bought one shirt, he bought 5, and they were all still in the packages.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, they were, it was just, there was so much going on, but it was inevitable that there was always going to be something that, oh no, that's not gonna sell. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And
Okay, that's
it's,
good.
you never know, and plants, yes, absolutely, people absolutely love those things.
Yes.
but-
Don't donate just yet,
Yeah.
because we can sell it.
I got a couple of antique items that I'm
Yeah.
thinking probably no one will want, but I've looked them up and they are worth something. One is this ornate slipper from 1901 that used to hang on a wall.
Wow.
And I've looked it up and I'm going, well, I don't know what to do with this thing.
And if there's record
It's from
albums,
it's from my grandma.
record albums, do not get rid of them.
Oh.
That same sale,
Well,
they
my
got.
kids get those,
Okay.
but there's not a lot of them left
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the kids took them.
Good, that's good, yeah. You have smart kids.
I don't have a lot of stuff, but I do have some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say too, when you're talking about looking things up, and this happens a lot, people look it up and they'll see on eBay, like, speaking of the Yadro figurines, if you just go on eBay, people are asking $250 for a figurine. They're asking for that. That's not what they sold for. So anytime you look something up, try to find out what did it actually sell for, because that's a very, because I could put that picnic table on eBay or Craigslist for $1,000. It doesn't mean it'll sell for that. So that's really important.
Yeah, I really haven't seen prices, because I've got this one vase that comes back, it was made in Austria between the late 1800s to like 1903 was when they made these vases.
Yeah.
And it's got the stamp in the bottom, so I was looking it up, and they go, yeah, and that price.
And
But I
that's-
backed it.
Yeah. Okay.
It was great grandma's.
Yeah,
There's a few pieces that we.
Yeah, and sometimes that is something we go to Goldwyn Coins and Relic Store, or we do sell some things online, but we research everything. So on that note too, before we do a sale, we look everything up, we send an email with prices, so that you know, here's what we're planning to sell this for. So here's a conversation I had earlier today. I had a lady say, I've been trying to sell furniture in my house, I can't sell it, can you come pick it up? And I said, no, we don't pick it up, but we can come sell it from your home. And she had a bedroom set and 2 leather sofas and a bunk bed. And she said, I'm trying to get $5,000 for it. Okay. I said, that's why you haven't sold it, because you're trying to get $5,000 for that. And I said, it's really, realistically, you may get $1,500 for all of it. And she was so upset about that, but that's the hardest thing for us, and I think everybody can agree that's the hardest thing to convey, is that you're gonna get about 1/4 retail, but what's the alternative? You either put it in a storage unit, which one of our people told us 27 years he's had a storage unit. We have another client, he's been paying $1,000 a month for 4 storage units because he didn't have us sell it before he moved out of his 5,000 square foot home. So you can't sell from storage units, right? It's very hard. But you always wanna look at what's my expense. You're either gonna move it, and that's expensive, or you're gonna put it in a storage unit, and that's expensive, or you're gonna pay Denora and his crew, which is expensive, not as expensive as other companies, right? But you're gonna pay someone to move it and even donate it, you're gonna pay someone to donate it. So it's really important to keep that in mind, that it's not so much about how much money you make, it's about how much money you save. So that would be a really important last point that I have to make. What other questions? Everybody can ask anybody a question, so what other questions? Let's stand back down here so you can see everybody.
Explain what your REIT
Oh,
is. What is
it's
it?
real estate furniture exchange, and that is because, so I got a call today from someone in California who needs to sell everything in his mom's house. So the original plan was that you sell, like these guys are moving to, I don't know, Wisconsin, I was close. Anyway, so the idea would be that they sell everything here, then they go to Wisconsin and they buy from another seller there. So real estate furniture exchange, so you sell your stuff here, so you don't have to move it all, and then you go find another seller in that other state, and you buy that, or even, like Nancy was saying, her stuff didn't match her new place. So it's called that because the whole concept is everybody's moving, everybody needs their furniture to go somewhere, so why not create one place where you can find that furniture? So that was the whole concept, and it was meant, and it will someday be nationwide, but we're just not, I'm just.
So I hear something in Wisconsin?
I know.
Milwaukee.
But so what I would do is, if you're needing furniture, I'm gonna call a realtor in Wisconsin in your area and say, tell me who your sellers are and what they're getting rid of, and that's how it starts. But, and so the goal is that everybody would be using the website, so it was interesting to get a call from California today, and to help them is gonna be a little challenging, because I don't have Kip and Joe and Denor and all
What part of
these.
California?
And Costa Mesa, wanna go? Sure. Okay, you're on, you're on.
We'll leave the end of the week.
His mom was a hoarder, so we need
Okay, we
that.
got the trailer, we put it down in the trailer.
Okay, all right, we got a crew, we got a crew. So, yeah, that's the challenge, is everybody's got the same, all the questions, the same situation, we're all in, it's everywhere. So how do we change the thinking, especially among realtors and estate attorneys and people that are just saying throw it all away or put it all in storage. I have heard that over and over and over again, and, you know, I'll talk to people, can you sell my stuff out of my storage unit? We can't, we can't. So, thousands of dollars are spent, and the storage units, they're valuable if it's temporary. Temporary, not 27 years, not 4 years, temporary. So there is value in that, but it's a nationwide, it's a worldwide issue. So to me, it's building teams everywhere, and I would love to try and help you in Wisconsin when you move, to get furniture if you need some. But that's the goal, so that's why it's called real estate furniture exchange.
Our biggest concern right now is, while we're waiting for our house to sell and we're in Wisconsin, we're already looking at homes, what if we see what we wanna buy? How are we gonna put something down on that house? We own our house outright.
While I can't lend in Wisconsin, again, it is tools and like people like myself. There are brokers I can refer you guys to within my own company that be able to like assist with the exact things I'm talking about.
But what are the type of loans we could look at? I've heard bridge loans, and some people say don't do them, some say, oh, people do them.
A lot of people do them, but as a realtor, I can tell you a lot of people use them to get.
They definitely do, just because they are a very good, like, if you think of like all the rocks in the river you have to step over in the home process, you really have to, they're a very stable point that you're able to use in order to secure financing to handle all of the other issues. I think that the criticism that you're hearing online, some people do get burned by them just because they don't ask questions or learn exactly what is needed. And I think that there are definitely lenders that use them as a catch-all, especially when they're not always needed. But if you want to put something down on a house, I do truly think that bridge loans are a great way to secure temporary financing up front. They're interest-only payments until you purchase the home. And so that temporary status and how cheap they are in the meantime, I think that they are an incredible tool for exactly what you're describing. It's when people start using them as like as something akin to a personal loan and start using them for all sorts of outside expenses, I think that's when we hit some of the danger.
Now, will a bridge loan pay for the house completely, or
It can up to a point. It depends on the equity that you have in your current home
Well-
and what you're trying to buy.
Well, from what she's saying, our house is gonna sell for, we're looking at homes, $150,000 cheaper.
Wow.
We're back
Now
there,
we're all moving to Wisconsin.
yeah, we're looking at homes for, $350,000 instead of our house, she's saying is gonna sell for over $500,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely think that's a conversation that depends a lot on. The math is going to depend a lot on just the current status, your credit, everyone's like there's a lot of different factors.
Sure.
I can't give you a
Yeah.
full assurance right
Well,
here.
we have good credit, that's the.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's going to be credit, how many cash reserves you do have, for like the interest only payments that you're going to be paying on the bridge loan in the meantime. And again, like you own your home outright.
Yeah.
Then a bridge loan is for a down payment. I think a bridge loan is a very good solution for you, but the actual numbers, again, I can't speak to just because I can't lend in the state you're moving.
But you can't move into the house until you buy it, and then I need the money to buy it. And what if my house hasn't sold yet?
It will.
Yeah,
We're selling
yeah.
it in 2 days.
And
I
even
can see in your house.
And even if so, in the meantime, the payments on the bridge loan themselves are like smaller as a result. The fact that they're interest only essentially until that financing converts and the sale is made, and then the loan would be fully paid out by the seller.
So a bridge loan is really just a down payment loan.
Yes, and in the meantime,
Okay, I didn't understand that.
that is a very good way of thinking about it. That's I think, but it also can be a moving expenses loan. It can be all sorts of different things as well. It pays for relocation, and what that means, that's lender dependent. I mean, that's who I go to, not me. It's not my opinion. It's who we get the loan through. So.
Because we've already got a burbo, but we're looking at staying in while we're waiting.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's very organized.
Cause
So-
it's furnished, you
Yeah.
know, you can't go into a hotel, you know, you got a kitchen.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. Well, that would save money to get into a house right away, because then you're not throwing away on rentals and that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
If you know exactly where you wanna be, because that's the other challenge is
Yeah,
you gotta know where you wanna be. But in the market, a lot of times those homes, they're gone. You find the perfect
oh,
one.
their
and
homes
it's
are selling fast.
gone. Yeah.
So that's why
exactly.
we've gotta move if you,
Yeah,
and the trick is, a lot of their houses is that we've got a 20-foot RV trailer. And so many of them, I'm gonna say, there's no place to put a trailer.
yeah,
I'm not gonna store it, I'm not gonna store it.
right.
I gotta
Yeah,
have a place
so-
to park this thing.
Right, so finding that house and locking it down is gonna be huge.
Yeah.
And people don't want contingent sales, and that's why we see a lot of bridge loans or similar, or people borrowing off their equity or borrowing off their investments. We see that a lot because contingent offers are often frowned upon by sellers, rightly so, because you don't know how long you're gonna wait for that person to sell their house.
Right.
So that it is a good way to go. There's always an option. I think what I'm hearing you say is there are lots of options.
There are, I think.
That's what I'm hearing.
Bridge
Yeah.
loan sounds like a very good idea for what you're looking for.
Mhm.
And the only time where I advise people to stay away from them is typically if they already have a large number of expenses. I mean, like several car payments, other mortgages, that sort of thing. That's the sort of, that's the moment where I'm just like, I think that we should, like, we should take a pause and slow the buying process down until the selling continues. But it doesn't sound like you're in that situation, so it feels like.
We don't
you
have
got-
car payments, we're,
Yeah, and so I think that's where concerns could arise, but definitely there are people I can put you in contact with if you're interested.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments from anybody?
so do you only sell out of the house, or can we actually bring stuff? Do you have a place that you sell out of?
No, because I don't wanna become a storage unit, and that's what would happen. 'Cause then I would get everybody's hutches and pianos.
Because I don't have a lot of stuff, so I'm just wondering, should I just keep going with Facebook Market, or?
Yeah, if you don't, because we like to come in and
I've just
sell.
got ones and twosies, things, you know.
Yeah, if you're enjoying it and it's going well.
Like my recliner is going to the dump because it's got broken springs, you know, okay, we're not moving it, but I don't wanna buy a new one here.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna wait until we move.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
can
we'll
live
just
with
stay
that.
on top of it. If you find you still have a lot left, we'll do a sale. Maybe it's a one-day sale.
Yeah,
You know, but we'll get it sold, we'll get it handled. So, we'll bring in Allison to take it off. We'll do that, but, yeah, really good session. Any other questions from
So
anybody?
your fees go into the sale of the home then?
Yeah, well, so what happens is, let's say we're listing your home and we have a sale. We take a percentage for the crew, for everybody that's working, and we pay junk removal donation, the team. And then, there's a check that comes back to you as the home owner. And so you can continue pulling expenses out of that, money from the estate sale, or it can just go right back to you as the owner. And then the home is sold after that at whatever time, you know, which is whatever the crystal ball says, yeah, it gets sold. Did that answer, did I get your question right? Let me make sure I answered that right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's good. So what we do, if we're just selling online, we charge 20%. If we're doing an estate sale, we charge 40%. And that's, how many hours, Kip and Joe, how many hours do you think you put in? Did we say 30? Or
That's, I would say minimum.
minimum?
Well, like, okay, it depends on how much time we can have actually to get in there.
Yeah.
We have one coming up that we're only going to have the day before the sale,
Yeah.
and we can get in. Because the person is still living there and their things aren't gonna be moved out until the day before the sale. So obviously, we aren't gonna put in 30 hours in one day. But there's another one that we're gonna be doing in Port Orchard that is several, I mean, it's a large sale, so we'll be working every day for at least a week ahead of time to sort through things and set things up.
Yeah, and it's coming back too after the sale's over and meeting people sometimes, and it's a lot of hours. They put in a lot of hours and work really hard. The other thing that we do, and Jo does that, she sends an email, we have a mailing list. So if you were to just hold a garage sale, you might get you know, a certain number of people there, but our sales, we actually get the people there because we have 400 people.
458.
Oh my goodness, we have 458 people on our mailing list who get notified that we have a sale coming
Oh,
up.
yeah,
So
there's
you
a
have
line.
clients.
There's a line.
There's a line and
long
everything,
line.
it's not your
Yeah.
typical, it's not a garage sale where you just have a few people wandering around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
You
get
get
people there,
people.
yeah, and we also promote it on the website, Real Estate Furniture Exchange with a rolling slideshow, we do Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, so there's a lot of promotion there, and that's the key. A lot of times people think, oh, I'll just go have a little weekend sale, and they end up with everything left, or people coming wanting something for nothing. Not that that doesn't already happen, but that's the difference, is marketing it. And the whole goal is get as much sold or donated as possible, and you can't ever lose sight of that. You can't ever lose sight of the fact that you've got to just sell or donate. We're not trying to get rich. Nobody's gonna get rich off selling used furniture, nobody. And,
We get tired, but we don't
but
get
you
rich.
can end up spending a lot of money getting rid of it if you don't donate or sell it cheap. So that's probably the number one thing I wanna convey, is don't get hung up on values and prices, like the person I talked to today who wanted $5,000 for her used stuff. She's never gonna get that, and now she's gotta pay someone to move it. Even if she donates it, she has to pay someone a lot of money to move all that furniture. So it's always about looking, what's the net, you know, what are we netting out of this, and you don't wanna spend a lot of money moving stuff, okay? So, what I wanted to say too is thank you all for being here. Please enjoy the beach. We're low tide here at Sea Cliff Beach. And you can stay as long as you want to. I have to take the little cap off the gate so it closes again, or I'll get in trouble. But it will open when you leave. So thank you so much for being here. We are gonna edit the video and create it. You'll probably see it come out in segments, like little patches. But we're really excited about that. Thank you for participating in this video. It's gonna help a lot of people. So any other questions that we can answer?
So what's your next step with our house? If the movers are coming the 5th and 6th, we're gonna move into our trailer. So
Okay,
we can clean the house over the weekend.
okay. So
And
I
then-
need, yeah.
You know, how do we give you the keys and?
Yeah, I need to visit with you,
Yeah.
and we need to see what's left and what needs to be removed.
Yeah.